I'm here with a young horse. We've taken to calling him Sparky. It kind of fits his personality, we think. And he is here as a prospect for a companion and riding horse for my daughter, who is only 2 years old now. So he's 2, she's 2. It's going to be a little while till they can come together, but that's going to be the case anyway. And in the interim, we've got a good older gelding that would absolutely fit the bill long term, but he's 28 years old and he's only got, like all of us, so much tread on the tire. So we needed a replacement. This is one that we've considered, and he's been here on the farm for a while in a sort of a combination audition and boot camp. So they say the YouTube geniuses who tell you how to make videos and how to hook your audience, they say, if you have something to tell people that they're going to want to hear or might be interested in hearing, hold off on that till the end. Keep them in suspense. Well, to me, that's just a form of cruel and unusual punishment. So I'm going to tell you on the front end what our decision is. And then hang around if you would. In fact, I'm going to ask you to promise to hang around if I leak the information on the front end to hear how we got to that decision point. So I'm going to get out my phone and I'm going to find the text to Erin 4 and her husband. And see, he has a little tendency to get in on you, and that's getting better, but it's going to be a work in progress. So here is the message. Texted to Erin. Hey Erin, wanted to get back to you. Did a couple little things with our young friend this afternoon, and he passed with flying colors. We like him very much and would like to buy him. You will, of course, have full visitation rights, and I expect you to exercise them, which I truly hope she does. So he is now officially part of the team. So let's talk a little bit about how we got there. Now, he's been patient, more patient than he was earlier, so I'm just going to turn him loose. Let him walk around. If he wants to hang with me, fine. If he wants to pick grass in here, that's fine. But let's talk a little bit about how we got to this decision. First of all, there are certain boxes that you need to tick. Is he the right type of horse for what we're going to use him for? Is he the right size? Does he move well? All of those sorts of things come into play. He's ticking all those boxes real well. If you watch the previous videos, you can see he's a cute mover. He's responsive. He's a little more casual than typically I would have a horse, but he's already catching on that when I call on him, he needs to respond right now. And he's not holding it against me, so I really like that. I like his mind. I like the way he moves. I like the fact that he's set up to stay sound. I like the fact for a kid that he's not huge. And here's one that may surprise you. He's fairly energetic. I like a kid's horse that has some energy. If you want to teach your kid to always be thumping and pulling on a horse, get him some old, dull, slab-sided horse that has to be ridden that way. And for the rest of their lives, the kid will be trying to unlearn that style of riding. So here we've got one that likes to go forward, who's not going to be a runaway, I don't think by any means, but he'll be there for you and he'll be responsive. And it will be a more delicate interaction, a little bit of a challenge for the kid, but I've found that a responsive horse that is not reactive is ideal. Obviously, we don't know all those things about him. We're just suspecting that that's where he's going to go based on the things that you've seen us test him on in the previous videos and the time that he spent with us just living here for a little while. The actual elapsed time before decision from the time he arrived was about 5 or 6 days. It stretches out a little bit with the filming schedule, but that gives you an idea of the real time decision making we had going on. I invited folks to comment, and I got some really interesting, thoughtful comments. I've got to say that the audience that we've somehow generated here, while it's not huge, fits me to a T. the folks that are watching these videos and commenting are thoughtful, they're positive, and they're insightful. And I really, really appreciate that. Whoa. Good boy. Now I'll pat you. So here's a couple of thoughts. One person said, nice mover, no tricks, no nastiness, likes people. Those are all good things for a horse for a young person, I agree. Looks like he will make a lovely kid's pony. That's a reasonable conclusion based on the videos we put up. Then a more measured response went like this, and this is really important. Need to see if he can handle the tricks and weird stuff a child could do. And that is absolutely part of what he's going to be put through. I have all sorts of tricks and weird stuff I do, but I'll tell you, oddly enough, one of the things that gave me the idea that this horse might fit was when he had that saddle go sideways. Right after we saddled him in the last episode. And he was left to his own devices because I had left the barn for just a couple of minutes. And instead of melding down and kicking the saddle to death and running himself into a lather, he was just walking around with the saddle off the side. Stood quietly while I got it back into place, and then let me take it off like he was an old horse. There was no panic. There was no resentfulness about this happening. And that struck me as being the kind of trick or weird stuff that a kid might inflict on a horse, which didn't faze him at all. So that mistake on my part, leaving him out without being completely supervised, he rolled, shifted the saddle, and there it sat off to the side, way off to the side, ended up being a real decision maker. So sometimes the things that go wrong help you more than all the things that went right. So those are some of the things we heard. Excellent comment from somebody who said, my first preference would be to buy an older, proven, bomb-proof kind of gelding. Amen to that. But these days, more than ever before in my lifetime, those kind of horses are scarce, hard to come by, expensive, and often a bit overrated. Right now, given the population of people who are riding horses, particularly recreationally, the three things that sell a horse are gentle, gentle, and gentle. And those older, really bomb-proof, quiet horses are hard to come by. They're expensive, and a lot of times, they're really not as good as you think they are. I've got the means to build one. I'm going to try to build this one and break my typical rule, which says the aggregate added together age of the child and the horse should be at least 20 years. So, you know, a 4-year-old child should have at least a 16-year-old horse. 5-year-old could get by with a 15-year-old or something along those lines. We're not going to be able to accommodate that, and I wish we could. However, the aggregate age of our old gelding is going to get so old that he's just not going to be functional, and it's not fair to him. So we're going to have to offer a lot of support to make this work, but we're in a position to do that, and we plan to do just that. So excellent observation, excellent comment. The problem is, do you buy an excellent, absolutely foolproof older horse or pony, or do you buy one that seems that way, who has a lot of dirty tricks up their sleeves from having babysat a lot of people and learning how to be child abusers? You don't want a child abuser for your kid, and some of these horses have been around for a while. They're a bit along those lines. So those are things we thought about. We're going to put him through tests every day. Every time we do something with him, we're saying, is this going to be a problem? Is it going to develop into a problem? Is he coming ahead quick enough and reliably enough to fit a child in the reasonably near future? And I'm talking in that sense, maybe 4 to 5 years from now. Put enough miles under his feet we'll surely know. And if he's going to be good, he'll be pretty good by that time. We had a little bit the same situation with my daughter. She was about 9 years old. She had been riding regularly since she was about 5 on a really good older gelding we had. But he was getting up into his upper 20s, and she had more staying power than he did. So we did exactly what you're not supposed to do. We bought a 2-year-old. And he was handpicked for me by my friend Terry Helder, whose advice I absolutely relied on. And then we went to riding him. The next year, my daughter Kim, who was then, after we'd had him a year, was 9 years old, and she shifted to him. She showed the horse in 4-H. Her first year she qualified for the 4-H state show. She needed a lot more support than she would later in her life. But this young horse he was a blank slate. He wanted to be a nice horse. We tried to help him to be a nice horse. She wanted to be a nice rider, and this horse demanded that she do that. So she couldn't get a lot of slack out of him that she could have gotten out of some old bomb-proof horse. Made her a little bit better hand, and he became an awful nice horse for the rest of his life. He's still on the place and always will be. So those are some things that went into the decision making. He is on probation for the rest of his life, like every kid's horse. I mean, you just need to say, is there anything going on here that's a problem? There was a horse that some folks had, and they were teaching their daughter how to run barrels on him, and he was real quiet and nice. And one time they're loping him home from the 3rd barrel, and he humps up his back and sort of hops a little bit. And they thought, that's a little out of the ordinary. The next time, in the course of the next practice session, he did the same thing, only he broke in two, bucked hard, off came the child, who was pretty badly hurt. Even if you've got the old bomb-proof horse or the young horse that's showing promise, you got to be constantly vigilant for those stress cracks, those problems that are going to multiply and get worse. So with that sort of negative viewpoint of looking for trouble as well as looking for good things, we're going to go forward with this horse. We'll be providing you with updates, and thank you for coming along on this journey so far.